Thank you for joining me. It is Scripting Friday, even though I'm having technological issues. I do have some pretty cool info for you guys today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and pull up my thing and hit play. All right. You guys can see that, right? Sweet. Technology is cooperating, at least for now. So today's kind of an interesting topic in my mind, at least, and I'd love for this to be interactive, but I want to talk about how kind of throughout the year, we use different phraseology to let sellers know that it would be a good time and or we might want to hurry up or whatever, right? And when you get close to the holidays, it's a little bit of a switch, right? Because we may or may not want to put a house on the market during the holidays, right? Has everyone kind of experienced that? You've had clients that are like, is Christmas a good time to sell? And all those sorts of conversations start to come up. So I've kind of crafted a dialogue that I use that helps people express to me whether their need to list is urgent and motivated by distress without having to say that, because that's embarrassing, right? And especially if it's a lead and not a referral or a past client, they're not inclined to want to bare their soul to you because you're a stranger to them, right? At least initially. So there's ways that you can communicate with somebody that makes them feel good about whatever direction they go, whether they wait till after the holidays or whether they go on right before the holidays, right? And the reality of that market is there are fewer buyers, right? Buyers are negotiating more aggressively because they're assuming sellers that are on the market during the holidays have to be. There's this whole dynamic that comes into play during the holidays. And I start having these conversations like in late September, early October, right? Because I'll give you a great example. I had a client last year that reached out to me in August. And we can talk about what I would say to somebody who reaches out in August. But they led with, hey, Ed, we want to talk to you about listing our home, and we are not going to list it until after September. And it was like, so don't try and tell us we're being dumb. And, you know, what do you say to that? We just say, okay. But their reason was they have two daughters and both daughters were getting married in September. So they're like, we just don't want to deal with it until after September. We've talked to other brokers. We know that's not the smartest thing, but we don't care. And I was like, okie dokie. So I pivoted to what I'm going to teach you guys today, which is, okay, then let's figure out if we should hurry up and get it on the market or should we drag our feet and go on the market in January, right? But again, you have to tread lightly because some people, not this example that I'm talking about, but some people, they're asking for your help because they are not sure they can even make their January payment, right? They're in distress or they've got a divorce or they've got to fill in the blank, right? And there's all kinds of reasons why people would say, I need to sell during the holidays. And you want to bring that person comfort. Like they're coming to you and they're saying that, and in their mind, they already know that it's a bad idea. It doesn't have to be a bad idea, right? So what we want to do is find out when now I've kind of explored both scenarios. Now let's just talk about you're meeting somebody and you don't know whether they are in need or distress or whatever, right? You want to find out without embarrassing them, do they have to sell now? So here's how you do it, right? So when I'm talking to somebody and it's getting towards the holidays or late August, I'll say, you know what? every year, right after Labor Day, there's this 2-week window where we actually see a bump in activity. So can we get it on the market by then? Can you list by Labor Day or right after Labor Day? And if the answer is yes, great, let's go. And I sell a lot of houses in that 2-week window. And you should analyze your market. But this holds true in my market every year. There's a bump after Labor Day. Why do you think that would be? Well, it's because there's a push to get in before the school year starts, right? But not everybody makes it. But they still need to move or want to move. And so they press on and they do it anyway, even though, I have lots of examples where somebody got their child into the school that they wanted them in and then found the house. So they used someone else's address or whatever, right? So I can be encouraging to that seller who's thinking about selling and thinks they missed it by explaining that there's this bump in activity in the 2 weeks that follow Labor Day. Does that make sense? So that's what I would say in August to somebody who was asking, is it a good idea? Now, what if they have that same conversation late September after the 2-week bump? This is now October, right? We're getting close to October. So I ask them, would you like to sell it before the holidays? It's a really simple question, right? And they're in their head, they know their motivation. I don't. So by just simply asking, would you like to sell it before the holidays? They're going to tell you, yeah, they may not even say I need to, but they're thinking I need to. And then you say, great, let's get going. Right? And this is a dialogue that works throughout the year to help somebody move a little more quickly. Every week we save will benefit you. Or another way to say it is a week sooner is better than a week later. Right? So I've got a couple right now that we were aiming for January, and now it's almost March. And they just have had so many things that needed to be fixed, and they couldn't get them fixed. And so I'm never trying to put pressure on somebody, because if I do, I'm adding to their stress, right? But a nice way to say, let's hurry up is, a week sooner is better than a week later. Why? Well, because a week later, there's going to be more sellers coming on the market. There's going to be more competition. So a week sooner would be better than a week later. And they go, oh yeah, honey, let's hurry up, right? Scenario number 3, now we're in mid to late October or even in November. This is the person who's raising their hand, and there's statistically a good chance that they have a need to sell, right? So you want to have a couple of pretty important dialogues down. One, to determine whether we need to hurry up or we can wait. And the other, to make them feel good or feel better if the answer is we got to hurry up, right? So they will come to you and ask the question, hey, Lori, is now a bad time to sell? I know we're coming to the holidays. Is that a terrible idea? I've had that question asked of me so many times, right? And I say, well, it doesn't have to be. Would you rather sell before the holidays, or would you rather wait until next year? That's the key dialogue, because they don't have to confess that they're in distress. I'm using the word rather. And they'll go, well, it would help us if we could sell sooner. And what I'm really trying to do is get them to identify themselves. They're either, need to do it or can wait. And I'm going to make them feel good in both scenarios. And I'm going to give you guys the dialogues that will help them do that. So let's run with the person who says, yeah, I need to do it sooner, right? If they're in distress, they're going to say, well, we'd rather get it done by the end of the year, right? This is code for we have to sell. And when they say that, I say, you know what? I sell homes every December. In fact, December is my third highest transaction volume month of the year. What did I just do right there? I made them feel way better that people sell houses in December. It's not a big deal. And in their mind, if they're in distress, they're probably concluding, and I'll bet you they're not all in distress either. They're just doing it because the timing works for them, right? So, in fact, December is my third largest transaction volume of the year. And they go, wow, thank you. Like now they feel comfortable about planning to sell in December. Look up your stats. Yours, it doesn't have to be third. That's just my stats. Look up yours. If you say it's my fourth highest or my fifth highest, even my sixth highest, that's still better than last, right? And you're going to probably find that it is in your top 6 because of all these reasons we're talking about, that people sell houses in December because of distress and other motivations. Could be tax motivated, right? Here's a funny kind of tangential aside, but it relates to all this, right? You're trying to help people fulfill their goals. I had a client, we put their new house in escrow and their current house in escrow in December. And they said, can we hold off on closing until after the first of the year? And I was already capped. So I was at 100%. I was like, you really need to do that? Well, in the end, it's not my decision, right? But there are decisions that get made that affect you financially, right? So I was like, yeah, of course we can do that. So we closed both sales in the first week of January last year. I capped in the first week of January last year because of that, because I'm in Seattle, our median is almost $1 million. It only takes about 2.6 million to hit your cap. And so I had 51 weeks at 100%. I hit icon and all that. So, letting people drive the timing is sort of an obvious thing, but sometimes agents try and influence it. And you got to really be careful not to, because if somebody feels like you're a headwind for them, what are they going to do? They're going to find somebody else, right? If they don't think you're on their team because you're trying to encourage them to go faster and that's feeling like stress to them, or you're trying to get them to delay, they're going to find somebody that has the same goal as them. Hopefully I'm stating the obvious and all of you recognize that, right? So, what if they say, should we wait? I say, during the holidays, buyers assume that you have to sell. So they're more aggressive. If you can wait until January, we like to target the third Thursday in January because of a few reasons. Have any of you ever sold a house or listed a house, I should say, on the third Thursday? If you've watched these Friday trainings, you've heard my logic about why Thursday is so powerful. I'll share it here just in case, because I know we got some new folks. But the key is when you communicate with your seller, be deliberate, have a strategy. Tell them, we list homes on this day of the week. And for me and my team, it's Thursday. And when they say why, I go, well, because buyer's agents will schedule their showings for the weekends on Friday. And I want to be at the top of the hot sheets. So we list Thursday afternoon so that we get the highest visibility. And they go, oh, that's so smart, right? So I'm communicating that I'm planful and deliberate about Thursdays. So now fast forward to this scenario, I'm still focused on Thursdays. They probably have seen my listing presentation, or if they haven't, I'll give them a quick explanation as to why Thursday. But the third Thursday specifically has a bunch of benefits for them. So what are the benefits, or what are the reasons? The first dialogue is, spring comes sooner to buyers than it does to sellers. And they look at you like, what are you talking about? Spring is a concrete thing. Like it's a date in March. And you go, no, it comes sooner to buyers than it does to sellers. Cause like for you and I, and I'm getting on the same side of the table with them, right? You and I, as homeowners, it's when the tulips start coming out of the ground or the color starts to return to our yard. That's when we feel like spring is here, right? The temperatures are starting getting warmer. Jessica's here in Colorado, so you know it's temperature driven, right? But for buyers, they wake up on New Year's Day hungover. I'll make a joke, and they have the MLS in their pocket and they're sitting on the couch hungover and they think, you know what? This is going to be my year. I'm going to buy a house. And they start looking. They jump on Redfin or Zillow or whatever app that they want to look at. And they start looking at houses in the first week of January. And there isn't a lot of inventory, right? And the inventory that is there is probably stale. But that's why I say spring comes sooner to buyers than it does to sellers. So we target the third Thursday in January every year. This way, you'll be on the leading edge of that wave of new inventory that's coming to the market, and you'll pick off that buyer before some other seller even gets on the market. Do you see how being the only person on the market in your neighborhood would appeal to the guy sitting on his couch on New Year's Day, right? So when you kind of equate it that way, it crystallizes in their mind that, yeah, that makes total sense. And I'm beating the competition that's going to come in February and March, right? And I tell them I have multiple listings that come on the market on the third Thursday of January every year. What's that communicating? You're not the only person that sees this as a good decision, right? Every year, clients do this. And I'll even make sure that I know what is the third Thursday that, this coming. If I'm having this conversation in November, I'll say, so January 18th, I already have 2 other sellers that are preparing to go on the market on the 18th or whatever, right? This year, 2025, it was the 16th, and that's too close to the first half of the year or first half of the month. So I actually used the 4th Thursday for this year, and I had 2 listings that went on the 23rd, right? So just know what the third Thursday is on your phone. Take a quick look when you're heading into the listing, and because that may come up, right? But do you see how they can go, okay, I'm not in distress. And if you're telling me I'm going to have more competition potentially, not with me, but for my listing, more competition between buyers, then I'll even tell them my story from this past year, 2024. I'll share it with you guys because you can use it. You can say, yeah, and one of the agents I know had a listing where, this is the end of the story for the folks who said we didn't want to list in September. I gave them the whole spiel about, would you rather sell before or after the holidays? They said, we don't really care. It's whatever you think is going to be most beneficial to us because our house is free and clear. Like they didn't even have a mortgage payment. And this particular house needed some moving concierge love. If any of you, we covered this last week, some rehab. It was an $83,000 update that we did on this house. So the plan we landed on was after September, they're moving down to Arizona for good. I'm going to manage this project through November and December, and then we're going to list their house in January on the third Thursday. And the funniest part about this story is the husband never said a single word to me during the whole process until after it was done, after we got the results. So here are the results. We go on the market on January 18th. We hold it open on that weekend. We have 400 people come through the open houses 2 open houses, 400 people. Because if you guys remember, rates went down January of 2024 into the sixes and the market spiked. We got 11 offers and sold for $195,000 over asking. And with the moving concierge project, we actually sold for $295,000 over what it would have been. So they paid back the 83 grand and got 215 or whatever in bonus money. And then the husband called me, first time he had ever called me, and he goes, "Man, you nailed it." And I go, "This is what I do. And if you think you know anybody that might benefit from my service, I'd love to take great care of them." And boom, in less than 30 days, they referred me a neighbor with another $2 million house. So do you see, though, how I'm ready to hurry up and get it on the market, and I'm going to make them feel good about that, or I'm ready to postpone it and put it on the market the third Thursday and make them feel good about that. Does that make sense to everybody? So right now, we're in that time of year where a week sooner is better than a week later, right? Because we're in late February, it's almost March. Well, the later they wait, the closer you get into late March, April, May, June. It doesn't even start to tail off until the end of June. So this is the time to use that dialogue. Hey, a week sooner is better than a week later. But I'm really focused, and I want to make sure that you guys are considerate of, don't do it in a way that adds stress to their lives, right?
I have a question. What do you say? A lot of them are just like, I'm just not in a hurry to sell. Like, and they want to list, a little bit more over than what the property probably should be if they were, more motivated. But
I'm going to write this word down, Crystal. I'm going to write this idea down because this is a good topic for next week. So list later, list high, just lack of motivation, right? I'll answer your question today, but I'll do a little deeper dive on it next week. So a couple things. Number one, I'll start with list high. And the dialogue I use for listing people that want to list high is it's not even a dialogue. Like, I won't take the listing. I mean, in the end, right? There are dialogues and I'll share them, but I'll say things to discourage them from listing high. Like, here's a really succinct and powerful one. Why not stay? And they look at you like, what are you talking about? Well, I'm not able to get you your number. And I should preface this comment with, watch the video on my color picture CMA tour process, because I play a psychological game with the seller that teaches their brain to be realistic, right? Really, really powerful system. And I encourage all of you guys to watch that, because it's going to help you get a seller to be realistic. There will be times, though, when they go, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Ed, but I still want 2 million. And that's when I say, well, why not stay? What do you mean? Well, your house is worth 2 million probably 5 years from now, but not today. And they look at you like, that's not a very nice thing to say. Well, like, we just played the game. You saw with your own hands. It's not me giving bad news. It's the market teaching them that their home is only worth 1.4 or whatever it is, right? And I apologize if I'm using big numbers and you're sitting there going, I hate this guy. He's always talking about millions. We can talk about 400,000 if that is more realistic in your market. But my median up here in Seattle is 1 million. So, but back to the guy or gal that's being unrealistic. It's really important, Crystal, that you understand their why. what is their emotional why? Why are they selling, right? If it's just to see if I can get 2 million, they're not going to list anyway because they can't. They're not going to get 2 million, so they're going to choose not to list. Well, that probably was a waste of your time. But most people, they're talking to you because they got a job change, they had a death, a marriage, a birth, a grandchild born in another state or whatever, right? Downsizing, upsizing, etc. So dig into their emotional why. Hey, what's more important? Getting 2 million or being near your grandson before he turns 2? Like, he's going to be 7 if we wait for 2 million, right? And I've had clients like that, not many. I've had a couple where they're like, I'm deliberately, it's like it's a matter of principle. It's silly to set a benchmark that you're aiming for because of principle. Unlock your equity and just move it to the next market. It's going to keep appreciating there, right? Or turn it into 3 houses and get even better appreciation. I don't know. Like, I'll help people work through the motivation, but the motivation started before they called you. That's why they picked up the phone, or that's why they opted in on your website. You have to figure out what was the reason, because they don't lead with that, right? They just go, yeah, I just want to know what my home was worth. I worked on one yesterday. He doesn't want to sell for a year. It's okay. I'll coach you and help you and connect with you and build rapport and stay connected so that when the time comes, I'll be the one to list his house, right? And by the way, the dialogue you guys should use for that scenario isn't, I'll do this because you're going to hire me in a year, right? No, and that they'll tell you just don't do it. Like, they don't want to decide right then and there who they're going to hire. Just say, I'm happy to do this for you, and all I ask is that you give me an opportunity to interview for the job. It's easy for people to say yes to that because there's no commitment that they're going to hire you. They're just going to interview you. And then you just got to make sure that your listing presentation is kick ass, right? And we went through my listing presentation in this weekly Power Huddle. So you can go back through the recordings and you can see mine, and feel free to R&D it, right? Rip off and duplicate. But it's a really good listing presentation, and it leaves sellers feeling like they've definitely found the right person. Did that answer your question, Crystal?
Yeah, it did. And thanks for all that. Because, yeah, I think I've gotten so far into getting the leads, and now I am struggling with a lot of this dialogue. And I am in that millions market. So every conversation I have matters.
Yeah, that's a good problem. And I know you want to get your arms around it as quickly as possible so you don't waste some opportunities. This Friday call is all about that. Like, my goal for everybody on my team and anybody that comes in here is, I want for you to be able to pull a string and know exactly what to say in every circumstance. And so that's why I cover content for the better part of the half hour. And then I always end with this sort of Q&A, which is, because you might have a dialogue that you need for a scenario that has nothing to do with what we just talked about. And that's okay, because I want to tell you what I would say in that circumstance. There's other people on this call that have lots of experience. They're welcome to chime in too.
And where do we find recordings in the...
Yeah, if you go to theagentcollective.com.
Okay.
And I think Gian put there's a link in the chat that you can copy.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Yeah. It's set up and divided by show. I'll call it show. And so you just find the Agent Power Huddle 1, and then you can go through all the past episodes.
Mm.
All right. Who else has a question or a dialogue that they're wondering, what would Ed say? And if there aren't any, we can wrap this up. Does everyone feel like Dialogues for Unmotivated Sellers is a good one for next week to help get them off the sideline?
Yeah.
That will be what we cover then. I appreciate you giving me some fodder, Crystal. All right. If there aren't any other questions, I'll let you guys get back to your day. Have a lovely Friday, and look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thanks, Ed.
You bet. Take care.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.